Hey everybody, welcome back to the Sixer Sense podcast. I'm your host Lucas with Chris and Michael. Guys, I missed you guys last week. I needed the vacation though, and I know you guys handle business with the draft. Fantastic draft. Some interesting developments happened there. Questioning New Orleans, but we're not here to question New Orleans this time around. We are here to talk about NBA free agency.
Yeah, we did a lot of questioning New Orleans without you, Lucas.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah, a lot of teams to question after the draft, but we are now recording Wednesday, July 2nd, around 6 p.m. Eastern Time. So we got a lot of free agency stuff to talk about, both Sixers and otherwise. Let's start there, guys. Let's start in Philly. We haven't had the big news yet, and we'll get to that. But the only outside free agent so far that Philly has brought in is Trendon Watford, who signed a 2-year, $5.3 million minimum contract, basically, with the 76ers. Spent last season in Brooklyn. This is like Tyrese Maxey's best friend. You can find clips of them dancing in hotel rooms at the McDonald's All-American game. These guys have been friends, I think, since like 10th grade, Tyrese said. So kind of clearly maybe a signing geared towards placating and appeasing Tyrese. What are your thoughts on this signing, Lucas? I'll go to you first.
Well, first off, Trendon Watford, I'm not a fan of, to be completely honest. I think he has a little bit of explosive. Well, not explosive. That's not the right word. I think he lets his emotions get the best of him in games sometimes. However, I mean, he is a 6'10", big body guy with a diverse group of skills, except for 3-point shooting. That has been a hit or miss for him throughout his career. Look, this move was to appease Tyrese Maxey, and I sent you guys a clip of John Clark interview with Tyrese Maxey this morning. John Clark, basically helps Maxey reveal that he's become the team's leader. He has become the team's leader vocally, emotionally, all that stuff. They're planning to do like off-season workouts in August and potentially like Texas. So like all these things are happening. And Tyrese Maxey, you know what? If he's going to be the leader, you bring in his guys. Trendon Watford is his guy. If you're going to make him the franchise, which is his nickname, the franchise, then you got to bring in the guys that he thinks that he wants to play with and can think they can do the help the Sixers out. And look, we'll talk about Yabusele in a minute here, but Watford fills a need, and I believe Shams said that Watford could play a big role here. Does that mean that he starts? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, it would help PG slide to the 3 spot, and then you could have a bigger lineup of, say, Tyrese, assuming we get Quentin Grimes back, PG, Watford, and Joel. That's not a bad lineup. Watford, I do wish that he could rebound a little bit better for his size, but maybe that happens this year. Who knows? He's what, 23, 24, still growing, still trying to figure out his game. So there are some interesting factoids there. And like I said, just this trade continues to accentuate the fact that this is Tyrese Maxey's signing. This signing accentuates this is Tyrese Maxey's franchise because they're doing this. They're not building around Joel anymore. I don't know if that's become clear to you guys, but it's clear to me that they are not building around Joel. It's Tyrese and Joel and Paul George are here for the ride.
Yeah, Michael, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily going to disagree with you, Lucas. I don't think that this move was solely made to appease Tyrese Maxey. I think first and foremost it was made because the Sixers desperately need depth at the forward spots that they don't have, and they don't have a lot of cap space to do that. And Trendon Watford is a guy with some upside who's shown some potential, and that comes at the cheap. I have concerns about him potentially playing a big role. Not like you said, Lucas, not really impressed with his rebounding for his size throughout his career. Ability to space the floor is a little bit of a question, especially when you're playing him next to Joel, if he's going to slide in that power forward spot. I think those are two skills that are a little bit lacking, or at least could use development on his part. I think he would be potentially like a nice depth piece off the bench if he's a guy that they're banking on playing big minutes. I have a little bit of concern there, and I definitely think, like Lucas pointed out, the friendship with Tyrese Maxey absolutely helps. I'm sure that did play a factor into it. I'm sure Maxey was, ecstatic about that addition, and the chemistry that they have together, both on and off the court, I think will probably help the transition of him coming over and kind of finding his way into the rotation a little bit. But I mean, this is the type of move I think we kind of expected from the Sixers, being as strapped for cap space as they were coming into this offseason. They have to go for, bargain guys at positions of need. And right now, especially following the draft, Chris, you and I talked about this a little bit, but there's like a clear need for some depth there, specifically at the both forward spots, but especially the power forward spot. So I think he's decent value on that deal, and I'll just be interested to see, how big of a role he actually has and what other moves they make to kind of continue to fortify that front court.
Yeah, I think those are all good points. I mean, I think the Maxey thing definitely played a part in this, but I do agree, like, they just need help at the 4 spot. He's athletic. Maury has talked about getting young and athletic, so Watford kind of fits that mold as well. I like the guy. I'm kind of predisposed to like players like this. Like, I enjoy the tall guys who can do cool
gets
things.
in a little bit of trouble on the court, maybe gets a tech here and there.
Yeah, or just 6'9" guys who can dribble and do fun stuff with the ball. And
Okay.
yeah, the rebounding thing is funny. I'm getting to the point where it's clear to me that Daryl does not really care about rebounding that much.
No, he does
Maybe
not.
as much
Definitely
as you
seems
do.
like that.
No.
Even going back to like the Houston teams, I just don't think Daryl's really that focused on making us a better rebounding unit. But we'll talk about Johni Broome. We have some other potential solutions there, but yeah, I think this is a pretty fun signing for the minimum. You're basically replacing Yabu, so this is a nice segue into the fact that Guerschon is no longer with Philly. He signed a 2-year, $12 million contract for the taxpayers' mid-level exception with the New York Knicks, of all teams, which was quite annoying to me. This is a deal that Philly could have theoretically matched, but they are basically just waiting on Quentin Grimes and couldn't offer this until that salary was finalized. So Yabu got his bag, didn't want to wait around. Understand,
don't blame
it
him.
is what it is.
No.
But yeah, Lucas, what were your thoughts on Yabu going to the Knicks?
I think we all knew he was 1-year rental. I've been saying this since the beginning. Look, if he does well enough, we're not going to be able to afford him. That's pretty much what happened here. Whether we could have matched it or not, we had to wait for Quentin Grimes first. So I get it. I'm not mad. I mean, would I have preferred him not to go to one of our biggest rivals in the division? Sure. But, the guy deserves to get his bag. And now, honestly, with their new head coach, Mike Brown, who's been around for a hot minute in the NBA, Mike Brown's their new head coach. They got him. They got Jordan Clarkson. They actually have depth. The Knicks are even scarier now than they were last year.
Yeah, I agree with that. And like you said, Lucas, the fact that it had to be the Knicks, I think makes it a little bit tougher. I think the writing was on the wall that he was going to be gone. I actually wrote an article with that title for ESPN 97.3 a few weeks back, that the writing was on the wall regarding Yabusele's future in Philly. I think you nailed it, Lucas, by saying, basically, if he came to Philly and played well, he was probably going to play himself out of the Sixers price range, which is, basically what happened. It's a little tough that, like you guys said, technically, if the order of things had been reversed, the Sixers actually might have been able to pay him that money, but you can't blame him for, taking advantage of the opportunity, not wanting to wait around, especially when an organization makes it clear that you're not the priority. It was pretty obvious, I think, that, Quentin Grimes has become the offseason priority for this team well before free agency started. I'm sure that was made clear to Yabu. And, at that point, he made a business decision. Going to have to see him 4 times next season and then potentially in a playoff matchup. But I think if the Sixers' depth at power forward wasn't so abysmal, it wouldn't be a move. Like, losing him, I don't think would be that big of a deal. Given the lack of power forwards that the Sixers currently have, it does sting a little bit, just because now we're kind of scrambling, like, who's going to fill that spot. But the production and the talent that he had, he was a fun story, obviously, coming back to the league. He gave Sixers fans something to be excited about in a otherwise, injury-plagued and forgettable season. But I don't think that he's a guy that, you really need to shed too many tears about losing, other than the fact that the Sixers now are, even thinner than they already were at the power forward spot.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, it's good for him. We heard a lot of Denver and San Antonio buzz in the lead up, which I was pretty much at peace with. Those both would have been pretty cool landing spots. I was pretty bummed when I found out it was the Knicks. I think the Mike Brown hire is a really good hire. I think he's the best coach left on the market at this point.
Yeah.
You kind of go back through his resume, and
I think Mike Brown is like outside the Lakers run, like he's been a good head coach.
Pretty much consistent success. The Lakers run was not really his fault. Like,
Yeah.
none of his failures are really on him. He's just been pretty much successful for 2 decades now. So
Yeah, I think he's a very malleable head coach. Like, I think he's one of those guys that is willing to make a system around his players.
yeah, and like, look, made Sacramento the number 1 offense in the NBA a few years ago.
Made Cleveland one of
Now
the best
has
defenses.
Brunson and Cat. Like,
Yeah.
Knicks are going to be really good next year. It's unfortunate, but let's talk about Eric Gordon for a second. He basically opted out and then re-signed back on a minimum contract. Some weird cap mechanics where he like gets more money but takes up less space on the cap sheet now. But he's back basically as a mentor to VJ Edgecombe, who was on the Bahamian national team with him this past summer, and also just like another shooter off the bench. I'm sure he'll get some minutes. How are we feeling about Eric Gordon being back? I think we all knew this was going to happen, though I don't think any of us were particularly excited about it. So how are you feeling, Lucas?
I'm more okay with it because of the mentor factor. I mean, look, it looks like all these old guys that are on the team. We talk about Eric Gordon, Andre Drummond, potentially Kyle Lowry. I don't know if Kyle Lowry's coming back at this point, but like those type of guys, they're coming back because they're mentors at this point, right? Because like, you know, these young guys are going to get the majority of the minutes. Like, if these guys are playing minutes at the beginning of the season, then we have a problem. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think that's going to be the case. Look, reporting has made it clear that the mentorship is the bigger factor here for Eric Gordon than anything else, which is fine by me. If he gets to get a $1 million or so to be a mentor to VJ Edgecombe, and if we look back at Eric Gordon's career, he had a really good career. Maybe not worthy of a number 3 overall pick, but like actually before he got injured the first time back with the Clippers, it was getting there, right? But look, Eric Gordon, really good player, really good mentor, very good veteran. I don't mind him being a mentor for VJ Edgecombe, who seems like a great kid that just needs guidance.
Yeah. I mean, look, he was definitely like he's the best of the old guys, right? Like, he's definitely the closest to still being like a rotation level player.
He's like the 11th guy on the depth chart, in my opinion.
Like I think he's better than Drummond and Lowry at this point. So that's how I feel about it. It seems like they're going to trade Drummond here at some point, if I had to guess. But Michael, what were your thoughts on Gordon coming back?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much echo what Lucas said. You have to fill out the roster with somebody the last, 3 or 4 spots. He can at least still serve as a, floor spacer. I think he shot over 40% in the, the run that he did get for the team last year. So he still has, the one skill that's still very valuable in the NBA. And like you guys both pointed out, the relationship obviously with Edgecombe is probably the driving factor here. There's a little bit of me that worries the Nurse is going to, play him a little bit more than he should at the expense of some of the other guys. I hope that's not the case. I think that, the backcourt is deep enough that he shouldn't have to play many minutes, but it's fine for a minimum end of roster type guy that can come in a pinch and hit a couple threes. But any more than that, like Lucas said, I don't think that that role certainly shouldn't be much bigger than that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So that kind of brings us to the elephant in the room, which is, as of our recording right this second, Quentin Grimes is still not re-signed with the Sixers. Any team that had cap space has pretty much used it up. Brooklyn took out a big chunk with a trade that we'll talk about. Detroit has burned all their cap space. So it seems pretty clear that Quentin Grimes will re-sign. It's just a matter of figuring out what exactly his value is. But are you guys kind of surprised that it has taken this long? Obviously, like, Jonathan Kuminga is the other big restricted free agent. He's taking forever too. These are kind of more complicated situations maybe than just an unrestricted free agent, but are you guys surprised that we're still waiting?
Nope, I'm not, and I'll tell you why. First off, who was it? Keith Pompey. Shout out Keith. He reported that the Grimes was looking for $25 million a year. You're not getting that in this market. Honestly, at this point, the most you could get at this market is the mid-level exception, which is around $14.5 million. Now, I think he's worth more than that. I think we're haggling over price now, whether or not, like, where I think Morey and his side are firmly, in the trenches of, like, what are we going to do? And I don't expect this to be resolved anytime soon. There is no rush to get this resolved anytime soon. The question is who blinks first, Morey or Grimes? I suspect it's going to be Grimes because Morey has done this plenty of times before.
Yeah, Michael?
Yeah, like Lucas said, I mean, restricted free agency tends to take a little bit longer than unrestricted free agency for obvious reasons. And if Quentin Grimes obviously does have a number that he'd like to meet, I think having it out there, it's going to take a little bit of time. I don't think, like Lucas said, I don't think he'll end up getting that number. It does seem like a lot of the other potential suitors, the cap space has dried up and they've gone in other directions. So I honestly, I'd be curious to see who the Sixers are really even kind of competing with at this point for his services. If anyone, maybe it's just a matter of, trying to figure out the number that works for both sides and that both sides would be happy with. I do think this will get resolved in I'd say the near future, not like the immediate future. Like, I don't think we're going to sign off this podcast and it's going to break, but within the next probably like week or so.
Let me check my phone just to make sure.
Watch, I just jinxed it. But I mean, I think in the next week or so, maybe we'll see some details start to emerge. But like Lucas said, I don't think either side is necessarily in a rush. He's obviously not going to be playing in summer league or anything. So I do think it'll still happen, and the Sixers have to hope it happens at this point, because if they lose Quentin Grimes, it would be a pretty big bummer of a free agency period for the franchise.
Well, I do have, not Sixers related, but breaking news, Frank Vogel is finalizing an agreement to join the Dallas Mavericks as lead assistant.
Vogelback.
Good for him.
Vogelback. But yeah, no, look, yeah. I think the only other, there are two other restricted free agents that are like big time. We already mentioned one of them, Jonathan Kuminga. Cam Thomas, who plays the same position as the other one. I suspect Cam goes back to Brooklyn too. So yeah, there's really not much of a market for him at this point, except, well, there is one. If Atlanta wanted to do a sign and trade and use their big trade exception.
That's a good point. I was going to say, do we think there's any like sneaky sign and trade potential with Quentin Grimes?
I mean, like,
Atlanta would be a good one. That would make a lot of sense for the Hawks, to be frank.
I mean, I like him in Minnesota, but I can't think of, off the top of my head, I can't think of a pathway for him to get there and trading back a player.
Here, we'll just take that Pelicans pick next year.
Ooh.
And they can have him.
Ooh.
Little unprotected first rounder.
Yeah, right.
I don't think they'll do that, but
no.
Yeah, Atlanta would make a lot of sense. That's a good call. But yeah, I have to assume he's just going to resign here at some point in the near future. That's what I'm hoping for as well.
I mean, there definitely hasn't been a lot of reporting about like other interested suitors. There was like pre-free agency, but since free agency broke, it's been pretty quiet on the Grimes front.
Brooklyn would have been.
I mean, we all thought Miles Turner was going to resign, and look what happened.
That was crazy, but we'll get to that soon.
We'll get to that soon. All right, let's talk about some draft stuff real quick.
Can I just? I know it's not on the agenda, but can I just talk about how the Sixers are already experimenting?
Keep going.
Okay. How the Sixers have already started to experiment with VJ Edgecombe on at point guard at the beginning of summer league training camp. Any thoughts on that, guys?
That's what summer league's for. You're there to try stuff.
Do you think that there's a real chance, because he played point guard for the Bahamas? Do you think there's a chance that he might end up becoming a point guard for the Sixers, take a Russell Westbrook-esque type of career change once getting to the NBA?
It's not impossible. It would take a lot of development, but he's a super athletic guy. If he can get his handle on a string, like, it's definitely in his, like, he's smart enough to do that stuff. So
yeah, I mean, like Chris said, he'd have to take a step forward in playmaking, but at 19, I think it's possible. And the Sixers' lack of like a true point guard, I think a lot of people view Maxey as like a combo. Same with McCain. Maybe they're trying to hammer down Edgecombe into that point guard role, which, that is what Summer League is for. So it'll be interesting to see him kind of run an offense at the NBA level in Vegas.
Okay.
Yeah. And like, Philly still doesn't have a lot of good passers. Like, Edgecombe is quietly going to be one of our best passers next year. So
Joel, if healthy, can be too.
Makes sense. Yeah. I mean, frankly, Johni Broome might be our best passer right now, which is why we're going to talk about him. We didn't get a chance to talk about him after the first round because the second round is no longer taking place on the same day as the first round. But Johni Broome out of Auburn was our pick with the 35th overall pick. Finished second in National Player of the Year voting this past season behind Cooper Flagg. led Auburn to the number 1 overall seed in college basketball. This dude was really, really good at Auburn. Obviously, the NBA is a different ballgame. There's a reason he fell to the second round. He's 6'9", maybe not the most athletic.
He has a 24-inch vertical. He is not athletic, okay? That's okay, though.
It's fine. My take on him is that he's very good. I had him I gave him a first-round grade. He is like a legitimately awesome passer in the front court, super physical around the rim, gets rebounds, plays really smart and hard on defense, can shoot a little bit, can play downhill. I just think he's a good basketball player, and he'll figure it out. That's my take. But Michael, what were your thoughts on Johni Broome as our second-round pick?
Yeah, I like it, Chris. It almost is like a throwback pick to me where like it's a guy that's really well known in college basketball and has been around for a while and now transitions to the NBA, like in the mold of like a Tyler Hansbrough. Like dudes now they're, you don't see guys stick around in college as long as him. And to me that shows, I think also which played a factor in the Sixers drafting him is like they view him as a guy given the maturity, the age and the college experience that could hopefully and potentially come in and contribute like almost immediately. The pick was obvious in terms of like position. You knew they were going to go front court. You knew they were probably going to go for a guy that could play power forward in the NBA, which he said at his introductory press conference in Camden last weekend that he thought that he could play both the 5 and the 4 at the NBA level. And he was preparing to, do what was ever asked of him. Great rebounder in college. That's the main thing I think that stuck out to me. He led the conference last year in total rebounds per game, which is obviously, we were just talking about that, something that the Sixers clearly need. So I think that skill set, he's a good finisher around the rim. Like you guys said, he's not like an explosive athlete, but if he can rebound, pass a little bit, finish some plays around the rim, I think there's a pathway for him to play, some legitimate minutes. I don't think he'll necessarily be a starter or anything for this team, but given their lack of depth at that spot, I think there's a pathway for him to really play some substantial minutes for the team almost immediately. And I think that's probably what contributed to them, going in that direction with the pick in the second round.
Yeah, look, I've been on his fan wagon for a pretty long time, so I don't feel like I need to repeat myself too much on this, but I will say this. Look, the guy is a very smart player, not just offensively. We could talk about the passing. Chris has already done that, but defensively, he has a 24-inch vertical, but averaged 2 blocks a game last season. If you have a 20-inch vertical and can still block two shots a game last year, that means you have great defensive instincts and timing. Okay, yeah. So that, like, I think he does translate to the NBA. Whether or not he's going to end up being a starting power forward, or a backup center, or even a backup power forward, who knows? That depends on how well he can move his feet, I guess. Right? Like that's going to be. I think his ability to be defensively versatile and his 3-point shot will determine exactly what type of role he has. I think that's going to be the key thing for him.
I agree. I mean, like, again, this guy, like I think effort is like a big selling point with him. We've been talking about wanting guys in Philly who play really hard forever. Watford, to your point, Lucas, is a guy who has a bit of an attitude. I think Broome can maybe fall into that line of just a guy who comes off the bench and changes the tone of the game with how hard he's playing. Do you guys see him like maybe kind of filling into the Yabu role a bit? Maybe like 20, 25 minutes down the line where he's...
I don't think it starts at the beginning of the season, but at some point, yeah. I think that I think your goal for him is to either... Okay, so this might be a bit of a hot take, but like, let's just say Joel's injuries get worse, right? Joel's injuries gets worse. He barely plays this season. Outside of the athleticism and obviously elite mid-range shooting, what does Broome do that Joel doesn't? Not much, right? Broome is an elite passer, rebounder, interior defender. Granted, not the athlete, not the shooter that Joel is, but like, I think I get Broome in hopes that maybe he can become my stopgap starter, possibly long-term answer at center whenever Joel leaves.
Yeah, I definitely think Broome can like run some of the same sets that Joel does. Like he's not anywhere close to Joel as a scorer.
No, I want to make sure that that's clear. I'm not saying that he is. I'm saying that he has the skill set to mimic what they want Joel to do on offense at a lesser scale, which Bona does not do. Bona, I think, just has the backup center skills that you would want everybody to have. Broome's skill sets allow him to do more.
Yeah.
So that's just my thoughts.
I mean, I think in the short term they'll be looking at him more for the power forward spot. I do think the versatility and him say like the ability to play both was probably pretty attractive to the front office. It's definitely possible. I mean, they should obviously be keeping an eye out for the future past Joel, given the uncertainty, I guess, surrounding his future. But yeah, I don't think he would be playing like a huge role immediately, like you said, Lucas. But 15 minutes a game early on in the season, and as a backup power forward, if he is able to catch on pretty quickly in training camp and kind of establish himself and embrace the role that they want for him. I really do think that he has the skill set, like you guys have really touched on, and the attitude. Like we got to talk to him very briefly at Camden the day after the second round of the draft, and he just seemed really like the attitude that you want, like pretty much willing to do whatever's asked of him. The college success he had at this point doesn't mean anything to him now. He's ready to just establish himself at the next level. So I think the versatility will be good, and I think we'll see him play probably both. Like I said, I think early on it'll be more forward, but I could definitely see a world where he's playing some center at different points throughout the season too.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Broome. I think he's going to be a player in this league for a while. I was really happy with that pick. Another pretty notable pickup was Hunter Sallis out of Wake Forest. Pardon me. Guy I had at 41 on my board. He was the second highest rated guy that didn't get drafted for me. It's just kind
Who
of a
was the
pattern.
first?
It was Eric Dixon, who went to the Lakers, unfortunately.
I wanted him here. Okay, anyway.
Yeah, look, Salas had a really good 4-year run. Doesn't shoot threes super well, but has like a 6'11" wingspan, gets to the rim a lot, finishes well, can pass and defend. Again, like Morey just tends to sign the best undrafted free agents. That's just kind of what he does every year at this point. He has already signed, I believe, a 2-way contract.
Yeah,
Any thoughts on him, Michael?
Yeah, like you said, Chris, I think that's pretty good value. What I was going to ask you actually, what do you think contributed to the drop? Like you said, you had him ranked at 41 to go from there to out of the draft. What was the contributor to that? Do you think?
I don't know. It's like pretty clear now that the second round is a lot of like agents kind of maneuvering their guys to certain places and who's willing to sign what kind of contract, that kind of thing. Like I don't think Tyrese Proctor would have fallen to 49 if the Cavs weren't willing to give him the reason he got there is because Cleveland was going to give him a 4-year standard deal, and a lot of teams ahead of them just couldn't. So that kind of thing I think plays a role. Is like, was he willing to sign a certain kind of contract? I don't know. Other than that, I think he's a really good player.
Yeah,
Sometimes,
yeah. Because I mean, I was going to say, to me, it definitely seems like good value. He has really good size for the guard position. Averaged like 18 a game last year. Played a ton of minutes at Wake Forest. Was just like a really productive player. Again, like drafting or bringing in a guard that isn't a great shooter seems to be like the Sixers' MO. So hopefully that's not like a drawback for him. But, it's a deep backcourt that they have already, so it'll be interesting to see if he's actually kind of able to stick on and make carve out a spot in the roster for himself. I think that remains to be seen, but it's definitely a good buy low situation. Like there's upside. So I think that it was a nice addition by the front office to add to the list of nice pickups they've made in the recent years.
Yeah, Lucas, did you have any
thoughts? We added another guy that's 6'5". I kind of want somebody with a little bit more length, and I mean the next guy we're going to talk about is that, but like still, I mean like look, if he's the best player, sure, why not? It's a 2-way deal, no harm, no foul. 2-way deals, it doesn't really matter about roster needs at this point, so yeah, sure, why not? Let's see what he can do in Delaware, right? He was at Gonzaga for the first 2 years of his career, didn't really get that much playing time or that many opportunities. Really stepped it up once he got to Wake Forest. Only had 1 year of good shooting, so that's kind of like but if he can get his shooting down, then he's definitely worth a look.
Yeah, he's one of those guys where I'm pretty sure he would have been drafted last year, and he went back to school to try to elevate his stock, and it clearly didn't work out. But I think he's a good player. I think he should have been drafted, so I'm pretty happy with this outcome. The other guy I just wanted to mention real quick was Isan Almanza, the Spanish big man who was playing in Australia last year. Spent some time with the G League Ignite program before it shuttered its doors with Ron Holland and Matas Bezelis last year. I had him in the 70s on my board, like a fringe second round guy. Maybe.
I was about to say, I saw his stats. They're not anything. I mean, he's 6'10". He's 6'10". So
yeah, look, I mean, he's playing a bench role in a pro league. He wasn't going to put up huge numbers, but he's had a lot of success in different international tournaments, and like he's a pretty accomplished guy for his age. But
yeah, look, I mean, if you can develop him into a good rotational big, great. If not, the Exhibit 10. He's not making the roster. He is there to go to the G League after training camp's done.
He'll be in Delaware next year.
Yeah,
but semi-interesting guy, just worth keeping an eye on.
I mean,
obviously with Broome and Bona and Drummond, we don't really have a lot of needs for.
Well, is he a center? Well, let me ask you this: is he a center or is he a power forward?
I would probably qualify him more as a center at this point, just because he's not spacing the floor a lot, and he's not.
Yeah, I saw 33% on 0.7 attempts per game.
Yeah, I just don't think he's guarding fours on the perimeter successfully. But interesting name, worth mentioning.
Not a bad guy to take a flyer on. You could always use the front court depth, especially the Sixers. Like you guys said, he's not going to be on the roster, but if he could develop over the next couple of years in Delaware and whatnot, maybe he'll be a bench piece in the future.
Oh, gosh, Chris, what was the name of the Delaware guy that we got really excited for last summer? He was a center that averaged like 10, and 5 in college. You remember me talking about him?
I know who you're talking about. I'm blanking.
I can't
on the
remember
name
his
right
name for the life of me. I wonder how. I'll check it out later, or I might check it out.
Maybe it'll come up. Maybe it'll come to us. All right, let's talk about free agency real quick. Let's start with the big one, which happened yesterday, and it was pretty much blindsided everyone. I don't think there's any reporting leading up to this to suggest that it was a possibility, but Miles Turner is now officially on the Milwaukee Bucks on a 4-year, $107 million contract. The Pacers did not want to go above, I believe, like $23 million a year to re-sign him. They didn't want to go too far into the luxury tax after Halliburton got hurt, which is pretty disappointing if you ask me. In order to make this happen for Milwaukee, a team that did not have cap space, they have waived and stretched Damian Lillard's contract. That is $22.5 million a year on the books for the next 5 years. Some dead money that the Bucks are going to have to work around. I think this is a pretty wild move. Like, that's $50 million a year almost, basically, to have Miles Turner on the team.
Yeah.
And the reporting today from Shams is that Giannis still has not committed fully to being there next year, so it could get worse.
I mean, look, let's just say Giannis asked to leave. You have Miles Turner, who basically betrayed the Pacers because they hate the Bucks, and you have the dead money of Damian Lillard for the next 5 years.
This is the Pacers' fault for not paying him.
It is.
They have also been putting him in trade rumors for 10 years now.
That's what I was going to say. It's funny that he's literally been in trade rumors for so long, and I feel like this was the first offseason where people didn't talk about him in trade rumors, and they're like, oh, they just went to the finals, like he's going to be around, and now this is the time that he finally gets traded.
Yeah, no, I just interesting. It is interesting to say the least.
I mean, from the Bucks' perspective, to me, like you kind of alluded to, Chris, it's kind of an interesting move. Like, I just don't really, like you said, I mean, having the Dame contract on the books for the next 5 years to bring in, I mean, I'm not hating on Miles Turner. He's a good player. I don't know how much he really elevates the ceiling of a team.
He is a unique player.
Yeah, especially a Giannis team. And now the Bucks are so front court heavy. Their best players are Giannis, Miles Turner, Kyle Kuzma, Bobby Portis, and no backcourt. Like, it's just a weird roster. And if you're making that move to try to convince Giannis to stay in Milwaukee, like I just don't know how much that moves the needle, or how much, if I'm Giannis, like bringing in Miles Turner and cutting Dame makes me be like, oh yeah, like this is the place I want to play out the next 4 years of my career. So yeah, kind of a shocker just all around to me.
Yeah, I really respect going for it and trying to make Giannis want to stay. Like, I respect the Bucks clearly aren't just going to roll over and die on this.
The thought process is right, but the approach is leaves a little to be desired.
I just wish there was a better way to do this. He's definitely an upgrade over Brook Lopez at this point. A really great fit in theory next to Giannis. but they have like no backcourt, like you alluded to, Michael.
Yeah.
I mean, what? You guys don't believe in Kevin Porter Jr.? What? No way.
No
way.
Not really.
Him, so
Nah. Look, it's if I'm Giannis, like you're giving me more reasons to leave. You just waived. I get that he's injured, but you just kind of did like, and I get like the Dame thing wasn't really working. Personally, he didn't want to go there. He has family. He's far away from family. All that, and the injuries, but like he's still an elite player. Like I think that's why restricted free agency is kind of at a standstill too. Guys like Jonathan Kuminga, like he's been linked to Miami, but if Miami can get Giannis, I just look, Miles Turner is a great fit next to Giannis, and he's better than Brook Lopez was last year, obviously, but like it doesn't raise the ceiling.
Look, if the Heat aren't willing to give up Haywood Highsmith for Kevin Durant, I have very little faith in their ability to negotiate for Giannis. But yeah, it'll be interesting what happens with the Bucks moving forward. I have a feeling Giannis is just going to stay, but I don't know how long that's going to last.
I mean, to me, on paper, that team is not a contender in the Eastern Conference next season. I mean, maybe a playoff team.
They'll probably stay out of the play-in. They're probably like a 6th.
Yeah.
With a healthy Giannis for sure, but they're not a team to me that I look at and like, this team could challenge for the title.
That's what we need to do next episode. East Power Rankings post free agency.
I like that.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Right. Number one.
But guys, let me ask you guys this. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, what were you gonna say?
The Dame thing, because we hadn't gotten to it yet.
Yeah, I was gonna say the important question is do the Sixers call about Damian Lillard? It would be a very Daryl Morey thing to do.
Let me just do my best Dr. Cox from the show Scrubs impersonation. No.
I was gonna say we're all on the same page here, right?
No,
this is a universal no.
We have a lot of guards, but like if you can sign Dame for the veteran minimum and he wants to come to Philly, I mean, you do it. Like, why not? But
well, okay, if I'm Dame, here are the teams that I'm looking at. If I'm Damian Lillard, remember he's a West Coast guy, so maybe you call LA, maybe you call the Lakers or the Clippers, right? Maybe. I actually think Sacramento.
It's so basic.
I think Sacramento could be interesting there.
Please no. Dame deserves better than that.
Why not the chaos?
Dame deserves.
I don't want him backing up Steph Curry. That's not going to happen.
Start them together.
That's just terrible defensively. Maybe the Heat. Maybe the Suns.
The reporting from The Athletic specifically mentioned that the Lakers, the Warriors, and the Celtics want to sign him right now and let him rehab as part of their team. So Celtics would make a lot of sense. I'm kind of worried about it.
But that's on the East Coast. He doesn't want to be away from family. I think the Lakers or the Warriors are the two teams.
It really feels like a situation where it's going to end up being the Lakers or the Clippers. I don't know why. That's just like the gut feeling I have. But
I mean, you mentioned Miami. That's where he wanted to go.
Miami too.
A year ago.
Yeah. I could see Miami.
Yeah.
But I mean, in terms of the Sixers, I think there's just really. I mean, we're talking about a guy. He's obviously not going to be here, not going to be able to play next season. After next season, we don't know what state.
We don't need another player that has injury issues.
An older player with injury issues, given especially with the backcourt depth that we have. Like let these young guys let them eat. Let's see what they can do. Like I love Dame too. I'm not hating on Dame. One of my favorite players to watch over the past decade. But you have to draw the line somewhere if you're the Sixers front office.
I will say it is worth noting, like Golden State was mentioned in that report specifically. He is from Oakland, so that is like his hometown team. There's an interview from 2023 where he was like, "There's no way I'm going to sign up for the team that's won 4 championships. I want to earn it, basically." But I mean, Golden State's not that good anymore, so maybe that like excuse is kind of out the window.
So
I mean,
like
his
I
perspective
could see the
Lakers
changed. If the Lakers do this, if the Lakers like decide to trade Austin Reeves for like more like defensive wing depth, which I could see happening, right? We can agree that that's a possibility. And then you get Damian Lillard, or you sign Damian Lillard, then trade Austin Reeves at the trade deadline.
4 guards who can't play defense and score 150 points.
No, we're not doing that. But speaking of the Lakers, I just want to say this, and I said this before the pod, so I'll say this again, or at the beginning of the pod. I can't remember. But Deandre Ayton to the Lakers. I have been calling this pretty much since the beginning of last season. And I feel vindicated, guys. I feel exonerated. I feel everything in between. And I think it's a great fit.
Congrats, bro.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is like one of those fortune tellers who predicts the plague. I don't know if you want to be right.
Okay, you're
But
making it seem like
you're
DeAndre
right.
Ayton didn't average 15 and 10 for like the last 6 years of his career. And
He
is like
certainly
a
had.
terrible starting center. You're acting like he's Yusuf
pretty bad.
Nurkic. He's not Yusuf Nurkic.
Well, certainly nowhere near as good as prime Yusuf Nurkic, but yeah, it's like not a good fit. Like Ayton has not been a good defender. He doesn't try very hard on that end. Maybe that magically changes in LA, but like to date, he has not been a good defender.
Would you want to
hardly
try
at
on
all.
defense if you're on the tanking
He wasn't that good
Trailblazers?
in Phoenix either. It's been a
He
consistent
was. What do
issue.
you mean he wasn't that good?
He
He
was not a good
anchored a
defender in
defense that
Phoenix.
got to
Don't
the
try to
NBA
gaslight
Finals.
me.
Come on now.
He
Come
has
on
his
now.
moments because he's like a freak of nature, but he normally is like pretty inconsistent, is what I'm saying.
I think the skills are there. The motor is questionable. For the
Exactly.
Lakers, though, I do think it's an upgrade over what they had. They clearly needed like a center. They had nothing in the playoffs last year.
Yeah, they had nothing.
He's better than Jackson Hayes.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I
but-
think if he was on the Lakers roster in this past playoffs, like they might have been able to do a little more than they did. Like they literally had just nothing in that front court. So.
No, I don't think they get bullied by Rudy Gobert.
But
I mean, you never know.
I don't know, man. It's like he's
Chris
just not
is
a
just a
good
hater.
Luka center. Ayton is not a lob guy. He doesn't like roll hard to the rim.
What do you mean? He had his best career catching lobs from Chris Paul. This is the best season.
That is not what he's not a lob. That's not how he plays.
Might not be how he wants to play, but it's the best way that he does play. When he
does
with
a
Chris
lot
Paul,
of great stuff. Like
I covered the Suns when this was going on, dude. I'm telling you, when he was with the Suns at his peak, catching lobs from Chris Paul made his offense easier. That's what we saw in the NBA Finals. In that NBA Finals run, he was shooting 60% and averaging over 15 points per game. No other player in NBA history has done that.
Yes, I saw the Shams propaganda tweet, but what I'm saying is he's not a good defender. That's the main problem. They need a defensive anchor, and that has just not been Ayton historically.
Where do they get that still in the market at this point?
He's a very good interior finisher. I'm sure Luka will make him look better. Like it's not terrible. It's not like the worst thing ever. I'm just like I want Laker fans to temper their expectations. I know Mark Spears who was like, this is an important franchise cornerstone of the present and future or whatever. It's like the guy just got bought out before his 27th birthday. Let's pump the brakes.
He is a good starting. He is I would say
adequate starting center. He's okay. He's like a top
I wouldn't say. I say he's above okay. But agree to disagree on this one.
He's like the 150th best player in the world. It's fine, but I don't think it's like the ideal Luka. I think they will look for a better fit at some point.
Well, again, that's why you go back to Jackson Hayes, right? If you not Jackson Hayes, Austin Reeves. Like you could flip Austin Reeves for a pretty decent, player.
If the price comes down on Walker Kessler or if Nick Claxton hits the market, then they'll pivot. Is my prediction. But
yeah, that's fair. Like we said, I mean, he's just a fine fill-in for what they had. Fine. Like, I don't think he's not elevating the ceiling. No one's penciling the Lakers in as like a conference favorite.
I think he raises their floor. He raises their floor defensively.
Yeah, I mean, it's a career 16 and 10 guy. Like he's productive. To Chris's point, he's not a great like rim protector defender. But where they were coming from, I do think it's a slight improvement. I think he'll be like okay.
I think he raises the ceiling more than he raises the floor. Is how I would characterize it.
He raises something.
Yeah, sure. I will say a lot of people have like made note of this. Like JJ Redick and DeAndre Ayton has the potential to be a very funny duo. It doesn't really seem like the kind of player that Redick would like, to be frank. But so we might get some.
I don't know if Redick likes any center. When has Redick actually liked a center as a coach? Like.
He liked Joel.
I don't know. He hasn't had one as a coach yet, so it's been tough.
Yeah,
Joel is a future Hall of Famer and MVP. Like that doesn't count. I can't. But Lakers weren't the only ones. Oh, wait a second, forgot about that. Go ahead, Chris. The other Lakers question.
Let's talk about the Denver thing.
So we're not going to talk about LeBron.
Oh, LeBron. Oh, I was mostly writing that as a joke. LeBron
No.
has opted into the last year of his contract, though, so he is an expiring contract. There's been a lot of buzz about whether or not he's actually going to finish his career in LA. Do we think there's any chance he doesn't retire as a Laker, that he ends up somewhere
I
else?
think there's a chance now because he's never done this before. He's always opted out and then signed a new deal whenever he has had a player option, right? Whether it's with the current team or not. Him opting in feels weird. And to be clear, it doesn't, based off of all the reporting, it doesn't sound like there's a team that wants to trade for LeBron. Now, if I'm the Sixers and I can just offer Paul George and maybe one pick, I might do it, right? I might. I think the Sixers should explore that because the money basically matches up. And, Paul George isn't at least Lakers can sell their fans on the name brand of Paul George, if nothing else. And he gets to go back to LA where he wants to be anyway.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think LeBron will request to come because, of course, we all know he has a trade. What is it? Trade? What is it?
No trade clause.
No trade clause. So, yeah. So that is probably not going to come to Philly. But if he did, it would elevate us, which I'm all for. But and then we have our true point guard of the team because he's basically a point guard. Yeah. That's kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, if that deal somehow presented itself, I think he would do it. I mean, LeBron is still better than Paul George for sure. It's still helped the team immensely. I mean, he's still a great player. I mean, no matter how old he is, he's still awesome. But I tend to think, like Chris said, I think that he'll probably can stay with the Lakers. There is some, like Lucas, you said, this is the first time he has gone into a year on the final year of his contract. So I do think that's worth taking note of. It's a different approach for him. Maybe it signals that he is open to a change of scenery, but I think
it's more likely a buyout than a trade request.
Yes, that's possible.
Yeah,
and I doubt. I was going to say I doubt Philly would be his top choice.
Or what, Chris?
He just goes to free agency next summer and signs somewhere else.
Yeah,
maybe.
I will say I am young, but I'm old enough to remember when Philly was so close to signing him.
He was we were the only other team that he took an interview with. Yeah.
I remember that
Ben
fake
Simmons
picture of him and Elton Brand or whatever that was.
Yeah, the restaurant in Philly. It was just far enough away that you couldn't see the face. As the peak days of the process.
And I forget who I saw say this on TV or somewhere, but they were there's been some LeBron Mavericks buzz. Which I think
makes
would be objectively,
no sense.
It would be hilarious.
That would be funny.
That would be the closest to Nico Harrison being now they see the vision, and I actually kind of believe it. It would he's a Nike guy. Maybe all the Nike guys are just kind of, trying to get to Dallas.
That would be wild. I couldn't.
It would be very funny. I mean, Kyrie and AD are his best friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be a funny way for this to end. But
can we stop talking about LeBron James?
Yeah.
I can't do that.
Okay.
We can't talk about the other. Yeah, Denver, please.
Denver traded Michael Porter Jr. and an unprotected 2032 first-round pick for Cam Johnson. Then they turned around and signed Bruce Brown, who was part of that 2023 championship team. They've since signed Tim Hardaway Jr. to a veteran minimum contract. Seems like Denver is pretty clearly top 3 in the West right now.
You forgot the most important move. They traded Dario.
They traded Dario for Jonas Valanciunas as well. Good point.
Yeah, look, I mean, outside of Houston, who we're going to talk about next year, I think Denver has won the offseason, especially free agency, the most. I mean, look, Cam Johnson is a better version of Michael Porter Jr., can do a little bit more offensively and defensively and cost about half the price. And the 2032 pick is a steep price to pay because Jokic is going to be at the end of his career at that point. So that kind of stinks. But at the same time, he's going to be 36, 37 at that point. But Jokic doesn't rely on athleticism. He could play for another 3 to 4 years. He might still be in his prime at that point because athleticism doesn't matter to him. Right? So maybe that's good. Bruce Brown, good news, Denver Nugget fans. You do not need to re-sign Russell Westbrook now. You have a cheaper and less knucklehead version of him in Bruce Brown, okay? Look, Bruce Brown played his best with Jokic. He's going to come back and play pretty darn good with him too, I suspect. Like I said, you don't need to bring back the Russell Westbrook show. hot take, I think he should go to the Bucks and just let all chaos reign there. Let no shooting happen and just let him and Giannis try to go to the rim all the time. I'm all for it.
They need some help in the backcourt.
They do. That's my whole point. And then Tim Hardaway Jr., they needed more shooting. They got it. They needed a backup center that could actually play minutes. Jonas Valanciunas can actually play minutes.
Yeah.
They added the depth that they needed. They got rid of bad contracts and got more depth. Kudos to them.
Yeah. The idea
honestly,
of
the Nuggets are a team to watch out for in the West.
The idea of Doc Rivers being in charge of Russell Westbrook's usage is
that'd be fun to watch.
I can we just take a moment and pray for that? Please, basketball gods, let Russell Westbrook, and Giannis play on the same team this year.
They might as well bring Russell Wilson over too.
I mean, honestly, at this point, yeah.
I was gonna say Russ should maybe just go to the Knicks and play like Chaos Agent and tear that team apart. That would be my ideal outcome, but
they just fired their head coach. They're not gonna bring in Russ to fire their next head coach. But Russ could get Doc Rivers fired, which of course would be.
Mike Brown has been fired because his GM got a bunch of old stars before.
His GM also was listening to Jeremy Lamb.
That's true. They had several GMs in Sacramento, it seems.
Yeah, Jeremy Lamb being the most infamous of them. That's crazy. Not confirmed, just speculation among people here, guys. Don't aggregate us. That being said, the team that has won the offseason so far has been the Houston Rockets, and let's just talk about them.
Well, did you get to say your piece about Denver, Michael? Did you want to add anything for that?
No, I mean, I didn't have much to add. I kind of just really agreed with what Lucas said. I really like what they did. I think the depth was like Valanciunas, I think, is an underrated addition. He can really kind of eat up some minutes when Jokic is out, which was like a huge problem for them. I agree that Cam Johnson, I think, is an upgrade and probably a more reliable version of Michael Porter Jr., who had like really high highs, but a lot of like inconsistency and injuries and just like kind of tough to rely on. So yeah, I think the Nuggets will be right back in that contender conversation in the West next year. I really do like the moves that they've made.
Yeah, I saw a clip on Twitter of like two guys fighting over the ball, and it was like, this is going to be Michael Porter and Cam Thomas with the Nets next year.
Yeah,
so I'm excited for that. That'll be a really fun team. They drafted like 4 really great passers who can't score, and they're just going to feed Michael Porter and Cam
Jr.
Thomas.
He's going to get 35 shots a game next year.
Those guys are going to shoot so
Didn't
much.
They sign somebody else too? Who else did they sign? The Nets. Who was the other person? They added somebody else in free agency. I can't remember though.
They traded for Terrence Mann.
That's it.
Yeah. Which good for him, I guess. He's a Brooklyn native. All right, let's talk about Houston. Like you said, Lucas, obviously the Kevin Durant trade we've been over now, but they have now signed Dorian Finney-Smith to a 4-year, $53 million contract. They got Clint Capella for 3 years and $21 million. So they now have pretty much 3
they're stacked at center,
starting to good backup centers.
Yeah,
in Şengün, Capella, and Steven Adams.
Yeah,
and Jabari Smith Jr. He can play center too.
Yeah, they have a lot of forwards.
They extended him too.
A lot of big forwards and centers on this Houston Rockets. They're going to be very long and athletic and tall. And Dorian Finney-Smith, who's like one of the best perimeter defenders on the wing in the NBA.
And who knows if he's even going to get that much playing time because of the depth there.
So, yeah, it's like Cam Whitmore, who I believe is like a really good player, is like still buried on the depth chart. We don't know how much playing time Reed Shepherd will get, who I think is like probably going to win Summer League MVP this year. Like Reed Shepherd's really good.
Yeah.
They're kind of a ridiculously stacked group right now.
Yeah.
Michael, what are your thoughts on Houston? Are they like the number one challenger to OKC at this point?
I definitely think so, Chris. They're like right in the top of that conversation. Like you guys said, super deep in the front court. Like Şengün, Adams, Capella is probably the best center rotation in the NBA now. They got the one guy that they needed as like the go-to scorer, which I think is something they were a little bit lacking last year, especially in like the playoffs. Jalen Green obviously had his struggles during his first postseason. You bring a guy in Durant who's literally like the most proven playoff scorer you could possibly bring in, and just like an offensive, all-time great guy that you could run the offense through. Still have a lot of good young players. They have a nice mix now of like they have the young guys that are coming into their own. They have like the established veterans. They have like the older veterans. Like it's just a real good mix of youth, talent, and like different positions. So to me, yeah, they're right there. I think obviously it'll hinge on Durant as long as he's healthy and can be out there and produce like we've gotten used to him doing over the course of his career. I mean, yeah, they're definitely a team that you have to take very seriously in the West.
So, like, hot take, if Durant does get injured, I actually think it's going to become the Reed Shepherd show.
Well, that's the thing. Is like Durant could get hurt, and they'll still be like the second best team in the West.
Yeah, they're that deep.
They were last year. Like they were the 2 seed already. They basically swapped Jalen Green for Kevin Durant and Dillon Brooks for Dorian Finney-Smith, which are both upgrades pretty much. You can maybe debate Brooks and Finney-Smith.
And if Amen Thompson somehow finds a jump shot this year, it's over.
I don't even know if he needs it because they got their shooters now. Like they're going to be crazy good on defense. Like Durant helps, Finney-Smith helps there. Obviously, Amen's going to be like first or second team all defense for the next decade.
I tell you what, they're the team that are most prepared to deal with injury too.
Yeah, they're super deep. They're super young.
Clint Capella is going to be getting DMPs, and like he might be starting for the Lakers if he went there instead of the Rockets.
He would be.
He's better than Ayton to bring that guy back up.
Yeah, like that is
agree to disagree.
They should have gone for, frankly, next to Luka, if you ask me. But I think Clint just wanted to go back to Houston. Like I'm sure he could have gotten this deal in LA, frankly, if he wanted to. But
I mean, there were other deals like Luke Cornett getting a 4-year deal. That felt surprising to me.
Yeah, Luke Cornett's really good.
He's all right. He's all right.
He's like a super cool passer, and he can shoot. I like him. Al Horford's still unsigned.
He could be a Laker.
Boston, LA, or Golden State.
Teams. I've been hearing
the Sixers could use a power forward.
He's not coming back to Philly ever, and I think
they
you
really
know that.
Could. I've seen a lot of like Ben Simmons is exactly what the Sixers need, and
I mean, look, I don't hate that. Look for a minimum deal, I'd be willing to give Ben Simmons a shot. I would.
The buzz today was Ben Simmons is like
much more than a minimum.
Knicks, Yabu, and Ben Simmons in New York. How would we
please
feel
no? Please no. Ben Simmons does not thrive in New York.
I don't know. Does he thrive anywhere at this point? He's only been in.
I would say Australia, but they don't want him back. I would say he thrive in Australia, but they don't want him back. By the way, speaking of people that aren't thriving, despite getting paid a massive overpay of $240 million, Jaren Jackson just got really bad turf toe.
Yeah, tough break for Memphis.
Well, I mean, let's be clear. They were probably going to tank anyway.
It was a fine contract. That's what you pay Jaren Jackson. He's really good and he's young.
He's not $240 million good, though. Come on.
It's a max contract. That's what
he's a Tobias Harris 185 years deal.
The cap is rising. That's just what a max contract is these days.
Yeah,
I don't like it. I disagree.
I mean, you can make the same thing. I thought the same with Jabari Smith contract. Like, I don't like.
That was actually a good deal for Jabari Smith. I don't hate that at all for him.
It's the same conversation, man. Like, Triple J is better than Jabari Smith Jr. Like, if you're talking money, it's just how ridiculous the salary cap in the NBA's got that these guys that are aren't superstars are getting this money. But on paper, Triple J is better than Jabari Smith. Yeah, pretty much everything.
Like
I guess we're in our all around the NBA section. I don't even care. We don't need those.
Quick note: I forgot to put it in here, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 4 years, $285 million.
Crazy money.
Largest contract ever.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Well deserved. I mean, now the question is, can they keep the other two? Because he got paid the max money he could. Like, that's the real question. Can they afford to keep both J-Dub?
The thing is, they just have so many picks, so they can keep restocking all the smaller deals around these guys. So I think.
By the way, that was a good contract they got Will on.
Yeah,
that was what, $6 million a year for him. That's actually,
I think it was $8 million, but yeah, that was a good deal. They got Wiggins and Isaiah Joe on similar deals. Sam Presti's good at his job, is what I'll say. All right, let's go around the NBA.
So is Raphael Stone.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah. All right, around the NBA, anything y'all want to talk about? I'll go to you first, Lucas.
Well, I mean, I've already talked about the John Clark thing at the beginning of the episode, but I do want to mention, shout out to the WNBA coming to Philly. So, fun facts. One of my first articles that I wrote for Fansided back in 2016 was the Sixers should get a WNBA team.
Hey, they listen to you.
Look, it took about, 7 years? 10 years, almost. But let me pull it up real quick, because I thought, it's interesting. It's interesting. First off, my writing was terrible back then. I do apologize, Fansided, for that. But, all right, let's see here. Let me see here. The reasons why. Is there a name that we could go to? Did I offer any names? Okay, so I'm sorry. Oh, so I suggested 2 names. Gosh, these are awful. Okay. One of them was the Philadelphia 63s. 63s would be relevant because it was the year that the Sixers became a franchise in Philly. So 1963, or the Philadelphia's 19ers, in honor of Congress passing the 19th Amendment that gave women the right to vote. So,
sure.
Look,
I don't think either of those will be the name. If I had to guess.
No, it won't. It won't. But that's what after college 2016 version of me thought was good ideas for names. They are not.
Odds were freedom, or like the Philadelphia Freedom. That makes sense.
Yeah, freedom makes sense. Yeah,
that could be fine. Yeah, that's super cool. I'm glad it's happening. What were the other? Was it like Cincinnati or Cleveland and Detroit?
Yeah.
And Philly's the last. Philly's 2030. I think they're staggering at one team for each year, like leading.
Yeah, and they're also trying to line it up with Philly's new arena opening up the following year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Michael, did you have anything you wanted? Or?
I don't think so, fellas. I feel like we did a pretty wide-ranging podcast. I don't really have too much to add to it.
Yeah, I agree. All right. We'll wrap it up then. As always, everyone, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Sixer Sense podcast. Please like, subscribe, follow along if you can. We're on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. Hit that subscribe button again. We're on Twitter at Sixer Sense. I'm at Kline NBA. Lucas is at CoachJ_20. Michael is at The Real Mike KB. And until next time, go Sixers. We'll talk to you soon.
Adios.